Ben, if you can hear me, you are at a rally there at Tahrir Square once again. These are people the military asked to come out. It seems that all power in Egypt is now flowing from the streets and the squares.
Well, certainly that would appear to be the case, but obviously the defense minister does have enough pull so that when he tells the people of Egypt to go out into the street and give him a mandate to, in his words, wage a war against terrorism and violence, the people do listen. And what we're seeing is a huge crowd here. And it's not just Tahrir Square, it's Ittihadiyya Palace, which is the Egyptian equivalent of the White House, and the bridges going across the Nile. So it is a huge crowd, and it does appear that many people listen to what the television stations told them, the newspapers told them, to go down into the squares and show support for Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his government. Jim?
Ben, if you will, stay right there. I want to cross over to our colleague, Reza Sayah, who is with the Morsi supporters. Reza, if you can hear me now, how are they taking this deadline that confronts them, a deadline that would seem to say, end your street demonstrations?
I think in many ways, Jim, it's further galvanizing them, it's further uniting them, and it's further fueling their determination to keep demonstrating. This is the major thoroughfare that leads to a mosque here in East Cairo that's been really their home base, the home base of Morsi supporters ever since the former president was ousted more than 3 weeks ago. And during these 3 weeks, there have been many large demonstrations, but clearly this is the biggest one. Tens of thousands of people throughout the day streaming to that mosque, having a sit-in over there, many demonstrating in place. If you walk around this crowd, you'll see that many of them are devout Muslims, Islamists, but many will come up to you and say, I'm not an Islamist. I don't belong to the Muslim Brotherhood. I believe in democracy. I believe in a democratic process, and I want my democratically elected president reinstated. The problem for many of these people is there doesn't seem to be, at this point, any kind of political mechanism available for them to get Mr. Morsi reinstated. But they say it doesn't matter. We're going to continue to come and demonstrate in this conflict that's really has these factions coming out and fighting in the streets when it comes to demonstrations, trying to outnumber one another. And you have to believe this was an important day for them to put forth a show of strength, especially with earlier in the week, General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the head of the armed forces, coming out in what many describe as an unusual move, calling for mass demonstrations. You have to believe that many of these Morsi backers thought that we have to respond with a show of strength, and they've certainly done that, at least where we are in Nasser City. And the question moving forward is, how are these dueling demonstrations, where you have these two sides going at it on the street, how is it going to resolve this political conflict? How are these two sides going to reconcile? At this point, there's no evidence of that happening, but plenty of evidence of both sides coming out in mass and demonstrating over and over again, Jim.